In 2018, Los Angeles, a group of former MARSOC Marines led by Ray Merriman carries out a brutal armed robbery, seizing an armored truck. The situation escalates when a security guard accidentally sparks a shootout by dropping his coffee. As police officers arrive and exchange gunfire with the robbers, Merriman and his crew manage to escape with the empty truck. However, he scolds Bosco for unnecessarily killing the first guard. That morning, Detective Big Nick O'Brien and his Major Crimes Unit from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department investigate the robbery, quickly identifying the recently paroled Ray Merriman as their prime suspect. Nick has been tracking Merriman and his crew for some time and is puzzled by their decision to steal an empty armored truck. Suspecting a local bartender, Donnie Wilson, of being involved, Nick tracks him down at a bar and abducts him for questioning. Under pressure, Donnie admits to being the group's unarmed getaway driver, revealing that they previously stole a large sum of cash from a stadium. However, he insists he has no knowledge of their future plans and is ultimately released. At home, Nick's wife, Debbie, discovers his infidelity. Furious, she takes their daughters and files for divorce. In a flashback, Merriman and his crew devise a plan to rob the heavily secured Federal Reserve that Friday. Their objective is to discreetly extract around $30 million in outdated bills that are removed from circulation daily and set to be shredded, ensuring the stolen money remains untraceable. Merriman described the security measures in place at the Federal Reserve with precise detail. The moment someone stepped into the lobby, a network of computers would immediately scan their identity against every law enforcement database in the country. Even something as minor as an outstanding parking ticket would be flagged before they could pass the first level of security. All employees carried security swipe cards that granted them access through the initial set of man traps, ensuring that entry remained strictly limited. 2 stories below street level lay the vault floor, the very core of the operation. Central Security served as the nerve center of the Fed, where armored cars arrived to offload money tubs. These tubs were then handed off to Fed employees. At any given time, between $500 and $800 billion rested within those walls, with every millimeter monitored by cameras, sensors, and motion detectors. But there was a catch. The serial number of every bill was logged into the Fed's database. If a single bill resurfaced, it would be flagged, and no matter where it was in the world, the person attempting to recirculate it could be tracked. Each time the Fed received a bank deposit, the first step was to send the money up to the count rooms, where the notes ran through high-speed counting machines. This process served 2 purposes. First, to verify the accuracy of the bank's deposit and adjust the account accordingly if there was any discrepancy. Second, to separate newer, fit currency from old, unfit bills. Most importantly, it was in this phase that the serial numbers of the old bills were permanently erased from the Fed's system. Once erased, those bills ceased to exist, not just to the Fed, but to the rest of the world. In the 100 count room alone, an average of $30 million in cash was deemed unfit every single day. Between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., all of it was funneled directly into the shredder, reduced to dust in a matter of seconds. The remnants were then collected by the Fed's waste management company and transported to the dump. But if they could get to those unfit bills before they reached the shredders, and if they could get out clean, then they had $30 million that no one was looking for. To gain access, Merriman instructs Donnie to pose as a Chinese food delivery man. Meanwhile, Nick's team secretly follows Donnie's movements. As part of the preparation, Donnie hides an extra bag of food in the ceiling of the bank's bathroom, setting the stage for the heist. Ensign, a member of Merriman's crew, has a daughter. When her date arrives to take her to a school dance, Ensign pulls him aside and introduces him to Merriman and the crew, using their presence to intimidate the boy into treating his daughter properly. When Nick spots Donnie at a restaurant, Merriman's crew begins to suspect he might be an informant. They interrogate him at gunpoint, demanding answers. Donnie admits that Nick questioned him, but instead of punishing him, Merriman unexpectedly orders him to inform Nick about the timing of the heist. Following Merriman's instructions, Donnie passes the information to Nick but claims he doesn't know the exact location. Meanwhile, a drunk Nick disrupts a small gathering at Debbie's sister's house. He rudely signs the divorce papers and becomes aggressive toward Debbie's new boyfriend before being asked to leave. Nick then heads to a strip club and leaves with a stripper, who, unbeknownst to him, is Merriman's girlfriend. She seduces him and, as part of the plan, purposely discloses that the crew intends to rob a bank in Pico Rivera. At the same time, she is secretly hired by Merriman to inspect Nick's phone. The next morning, Nick urgently tries to see his daughter at school, despite not having planned the visit. Ensign, on the other hand, kindly asked his daughter if she had a good time at the party. He then escorted her to the door, smiling as he watched her get into a car with her friends, heading off to school. On the day of the heist, Nick's team watches from a distance, keeping the crew under surveillance as Merriman's gang takes hostages at the Pico Rivera Savings and Loan, demanding $10 million in unmarked small bills and a helicopter within an hour. Nick's team monitors the situation from outside as the chaos unfolds. The LAPD police chief contacts Joseph, the bank manager, on Merriman's behalf. To expedite the process, Merriman orders one of his crew members to take a hostage into a back room and shoot her, forcing the police negotiator to agree not to communicate until the money and helicopter are ready in over an hour. The thieves then access the vault and set off explosives, which leads Nick to realize this is not their usual method. He rushes into the bank himself, only to find the hostages alive, bound, and hooded. Meanwhile, the thieves have escaped through a hole in the floor into the sewers before Nick's team arrives. The hostage shooting turns out to be a staged act. The thieves needed cash from the commercial bank to facilitate a drop-off at the Federal Reserve, as it was the only way to access the building. Merriman and his trusted associate, Ensign, gain access to the Federal Reserve by posing as security guards, making a cash drop using the stolen armored truck and stadium money. Meanwhile, Donnie is hidden inside a cart of cash and is transported into a counting room. To create a diversion, the crew causes a temporary power outage, making it appear as a routine brownout, prompting the employees to leave. Seizing the opportunity, Donnie activates an electromagnetic pulse to disable the surveillance cameras and discreetly sends the marked old bills, earmarked for shredding, down the trash chute. He then crawls through an air duct into a restroom, where he retrieves a bag of food stashed in the ceiling. Disguised in his delivery uniform, he exits the building unnoticed while Merriman and Ensign also make their escape. Meanwhile, a Federal Reserve employee, who regularly orders Chinese food, is disgusted by the cold, stale meal Donnie left behind and attempts to alert security, but Donnie is already gone. The stolen cash is transported out of the Federal Reserve in a waste management truck used for disposing of shredded bills. However, Nick's team tracks down Donnie, captures him, and beats him until he reveals Merriman's location. Merriman, Bosco, and Levi attempt to flee with bags taken from the waste truck, but their escape is hindered by a traffic jam. As they become trapped, Nick's team spots them and opens fire while the robbers try to break free. After warning nearby civilians, the police engage in a shootout, resulting in the deaths of Deputy Borracho and Bosco. Ensign, trying to escape on foot, is also killed, while Merriman manages to slip away. Nick pursues Merriman and shoots him through a fence, leaving him gravely wounded. Climbing over to confront him, Nick finds Merriman refusing to surrender. In a final act of defiance, Merriman raises an empty gun, forcing Nick to fatally shoot him. As Merriman lies dying, he reminds Nick that he kept his word before passing away peacefully. When authorities search Merriman's vehicle, they find only bags filled with shredded paper instead of money. The FBI later confirms that all funds at the Federal Reserve remain accounted for. Meanwhile, Nick discovers that Donnie has managed to escape custody. Nick returns to Donnie's bar, only to find out that he has quit. While observing the patrons, many of whom are Federal Reserve employees, he notices a photo of Donnie with his friends. It suddenly dawns on him, Donnie was the true mastermind behind the heist. By gathering intel from the bar's customers, he orchestrated the entire plan, using Merriman's crew as unwitting pawns while his own team intercepted the stolen cash and made off with it. Having successfully laundered the money offshore in Panama, Donnie has now relocated to London, where he works at another bar. His crew is nearby, celebrating their success. As Donnie serves a customer from a shop across the street, he casually asks if the man works at the diamond exchange next door. When the man confirms, Donnie offers him a drink on the house, hinting that he has already set his sights on his next target.